Thanks for the support. I now welcome the Honourable Malcolm Turnbull to the microphone, who is a long-time supporter and friend of Wayside.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Claudia. And can I just say how honoured Lucy and I are to have been able to support the Wayside Chapel, both in our official capacities, as me as the member for Wentworth, and Lucy in her previous role as Lord Mayor, and also in a private capacity. And can I just say how important the philanthropic contribution, the private contribution, whether it is in dollars or in the time of volunteers, how important that is to this institution. The dollars that come from governments buy you just as much as the dollars that come from individuals, that is true. But the time and the generosity of individuals brings with it a commitment of love and affection, which no government can ever convey. Every person that supports this institution, from Graham at the top to, and it's a very flat organisation, so Graham would resent that, but from Graham to all of the volunteers and all of the people who've contributed cash, every single one of them is tied to this with a thread of love. And it is that love that is at the centre of the Wayside Chapel's work. So the most important message today is not to celebrate the completion of this remarkable building and the extraordinary efficiency that Tone Wheeler in particular has put into it. This is not only an incredibly functional, elegant building, but its cost per square metre is so much lower than comparable buildings, built by governments. It is a real lesson, both in terms of Tone and his colleagues' generosity in giving their time pro bono, but also in being very smart about the design. But yes, we're here to celebrate that. That's an important message. But I'd say the most important message is to keep on supporting the Wayside Chapel. Whether it is as volunteers or as contributing funds, this institution will need your love for as long as it is giving its love and the love of its team to the people of this area. Now, I won't repeat all the acknowledgements. Politicians often do that, but can I just say that in addition to the people that have already been acknowledged, the very distinguished visitors, can I say that Gillian Skinner is not the only visitor from the North Shore. Philip and Heather Ruddock are here too, and it's great to see them as well. They've come over the bridge to be with us. Can I just conclude my remarks with something that Lucy and I wrote for the book of portraits of the clients, the people who come to the Wayside Chapel, the faces of the Wayside Chapel. If you haven't got that book, I'd encourage you to buy it, and of course all the proceeds go to the Wayside Chapel. But I'll just conclude with this passage that we wrote together. There is probably nowhere else in Australia filled with more contradictions than King's Cross. Young mothers with designer prams, busy business people doing deals over cappuccinos, and then just around the corner, a haunted and haggard junkie waits to score while a bleary-eyed prostitute looks for her next trick. Two homeless men start to settle into a doorway for a cold night. Across the road, the love machine offers anything but love. Then a few hundred metres down the road, past the Alamein fountain, you have our closest equivalent to the Upper West Side of Manhattan. This tiny pocket of the world on top of the escarpment looking back to the city is as much a magnet to the homeless as it is to those with millions to spend on a luxury home. As the urbane, the confident and the wealthy dine in Macleay Street, the poorest of our poor line up for a meal just 30 metres away at the Wayside Chapel. Christians talk about Christ. Very few live like him. I don't think Jesus would have found King's Cross such an alien world. Ancient Jerusalem was a densely settled community where the rich lived in the midst of the poor. The 20th century city, where roads, expressways and motor cars segregated people by income and affluence, was thousands of years away. The cross has always been an anomaly. It is not like the rest of Sydney. It doesn't separate anyone, and that is what makes it so special. The Wayside Chapel is not very churchy. You won't hear much about original sin or saints. There isn't any preaching at people either. For nearly 50 years it has fed, clothed and housed the poor, the lonely, the addicted and the desperate. It has been the place where people come for human contact, for help, for a shower, for food and clothing. The faces of the people that come to the Wayside speak of pain, of loneliness, of the desolation of addiction and mental illness. But those who come to the Wayside are never judged, patronised or lectured. They are helped in practical ways to find crisis accommodation and longer-term housing, to gain access to health and welfare services. The Wayside is a triage centre for those who are the most disadvantaged. Inner Sydney would be tougher and more hard-edged for them if Wayside didn't do the work it does. Graham Long and his team work where Jesus would work if he lived at King's Cross. The message and the work of Wayside is a simple and undiluted one of love. Every single one of us owes them a huge debt of gratitude for the work they do every single day of the year in bringing their love to make such a big difference and to change the lives of others. Well done to the Wayside. Let's keep giving them the love they give to the hardest hit people in our community. Thank you very much.